I'm going to be talking to you and giving you some ideas about wearable emotion and where it's going to go in augmented reality. But in order to do that, I need to give you the historical precedents and the kinds of things that I've done with emotion wearables in the real world. So when you think about wearables, you probably are thinking about something like this, one of these three things. When I think about a wearable, I think about something like this. This is the first wearable that I ever worked on. This was in 1998 here at the Media Lab when I was a PhD student. This was in my first year. I collaborated with a fellow student, Teresa Marin, who built this crazy jacket that had tons of biosensors in it, heart rate, skin conductance, breathing. It also had 3-axis accelerometry. It was built to measure a conductor's gestures and all of his biosignals while he was conducting an orchestra, with the idea that she would eventually, with all that signal that she recorded, be able to conduct her own stereo in real time as a gadget, as a application. And I had the opportunity, when we gave it to Keith Lockhart of the Boston Pops, to create an interactive display that we projected above the orchestra. I was particularly interested in not the input to that jacket, but the output. The idea that we could use biosignals and other kinds of biometrics that we could measure through wearables, translate them into abstract displays using color, sound, light, any kind of artistic media, and mediate the relationship between the observer, the audience, and the person on stage, and try to understand that emotional relationship and the excitement in the room. So the next thing that I wanted to do after that performance was look at it in the other direction. How could we mediate the relationship, the audience-performer relationship, so that the performer, so that I or a singer or a rock band could look out into the audience and see how the audience was feeling? So I had to build some kind of distributed audience sensor. I thought, should I put it in the chairs? Should I put it on the floor? But I decided to put it on a hand sensor. What it measured was skin conductance. And if you don't know what that is, that's a measure of electricity from 2 points on your palm that measures your sweat. And so as your bodily excitement rises and minute amounts of sweat potentiate the signal from one electrode to another, your skin conductance rises. And what I did is map that to a glowing LED on the back of a glove. So it was basically well, it was still the 20th century then. So it was an almost 21st century mood ring. But it actually worked off of something biological rather than just the temperature of your fingertips. It was being run by your hormones and then driving the electricity of your skin. We gave this out to 2,000 people. And they sat in Kresge Auditorium here at the Media Lab for a whole day watching speakers and performers on a stage. And we showed that if you kept the house lights steady and you shined a camera down on a portion of the audience, you could actually extract light and show what was going on with the audience. And this was kind of primitive, but it showed that you could actually do this. And I know there are companies now that are attempting to do this with wearables that are much more sophisticated than what we did. So this sensor grew up over time and became many things. It became other students' theses and went through iterations. It became the MIT ICOM. It was digitized. We spun it out in 2009, and it became the Affectiva Q, which is the middle sensor that you see there. That was discontinued in 2014. I spun out a couple of companies of my own. One was called Biometrics in order to explore more of this audience participation stuff. I wanted to look at the form factors. Could we make it into some other kind of fabric sensor or a jewelry sensor? I created that wristband that you see there that's glowing. I created a ring. And in 2014, I went to the Future of Storytelling in New York City and attempted to do another audience experiment, which you see there. We had social media by this time, so we have some images of people getting off of a bus in Staten Island and receiving their glowing sensors. I learned a lot about narrative in this performance. You can see there's a few glowing sensors, but not as many. And one of the things that I learned was basically just what you have to do in order to arouse a whole audience. It was much harder this time because we chose things that were not quite as exciting. We did some stuff with music, and we did some stuff with a little bit of drumming, and it wasn't quite as exciting as the things that we did in 1999, either that or audiences had become much more jaded by then, but I doubt that that's the case. After that, serendipitously, I had some calls with NASA, and they asked me to send them a very small sensor because they were interested in where they were holding some astronauts for a year at a time in a biodome in Hawaii to simulate what it would be like to be on Mars. They wanted a very tiny wearable sensor that they could take on trips in their suits outside the dome and also use in a compact VR display that they were using to help them, get used to being there for long periods of time, give them other things to do. So that got me very interested in how these sensors would work interactively in a VR or AR setting rather than being in the real world setting. So I got a grant from Verizon and the New York City Media Lab to do some work at the Future Reality Lab with my colleagues Ken Perlin and Ricky Goldman. And I'm going to show you a video of some of this work that we did. I'm not terribly excited right now because my demo didn't work, but maybe JP will come up behind me and say, boo. Oh, it worked. But do you want to try it?
I would love to try it.
So,
any particular finger?
No, there's not that much theoretical difference between that and a biofeedback sensor of skin conductance. It's just that it's in the form of a ring, which makes it wearable and portable and more useful for using in a game or in a virtual space. The novel addition here is that the sensor is the ring itself.
Is that a teddy bear?
All right, this is good. This is some good footage right here. I like it, you guys.
It's just an elegant solution. Having the ring and having it encircle the finger, it adds to having it be stable. There aren't movement artifacts, like shaking your hand doesn't show motion there. So, a ring is a really elegant solution.
David, can I talk to you?
I hope it can be used to help people with mental health issues, but also it's just, I think it has, with VR, it has a lot of potential for being just used for fun.
Oh, there you go. Visually. I've got the paws and the weird green feet.
Like, what if it was about being in a VR environment and being able to move objects with your body's energy, That's a lot more fun than trying to sit there and lower your skin conductance and lower a tone.
Is there a headset out there somewhere? Does somebody have the other headset?
I think it could be a way for people to learn a lot of things that experts are telling people are good for them, like learning how to meditate, learning how to do yoga, learning how to do all this stuff, that is just hard to get yourself to to start a practice of, but if we could make it into some kind of game that's really fun for people, where there's, there's not that much intrinsic motivation needed to start it, that would be a great thing. I had the chance to act as a producer on this other project that I also want to show you.
Right now we're at Snug Harbor in Staten Island, and this is the Future of Storytelling Festival. We're presenting a piece called Holojam in Wonderland, which uses our Holojam multi-person virtual reality theater technology to show a scene inspired by Alice in Wonderland.
And the trees are tall, and the sun is shining. Ooh, but we must be careful not to step on the little mushrooms. Everything is perfect.
Holojam in Wonderland is essentially an immersive theater piece in VR.
Oh, that's where, the Queen needs to, out of the way, please.
It's, as far as we know, the first live performance in virtual reality where we have the audience and the actors all together in VR headsets, seeing each other in the virtual world and sharing the experience of the virtual world together.
That means that everybody is seeing the world transformed, the room around them into a shared fantasy experience.
It's groundbreaking technology and an entirely new medium for telling stories.
You're close to me. You're a butterfly. Are you very? You're very close to me.
Wait, who's you?
What am I? You're also a butterfly. You're flying.
Yeah, that was really, really good. I loved hearing the actors' voices. And, you can feel them there. It's like makes a big difference.
The sound design is quite something actually, like, is because you have to, when the rabbit grows large, like, you do feel like you're, I mean, did you automatically look up?
I automatically did, yeah.
I loved the sensation of being smaller, and it was a great use of VR, I think.
Oh, it was really magical. I felt like a kid.
So just to end this, the things you would take note of there are they were using words like how I feel when I got small. You saw the rabbit and Alice, and the participants shrank down and got bigger. This is going to be ubiquitous. It's going to go into all kinds of verticals. It's going to affect in many different ways, and it's going to affect the way that we use data. So I'm going to end with that because I'm already over. But I would love to talk to anybody about the ways that we're going to use this with biometric wearables to measure the kinds of things that we were doing with the immersive theater.